Hey everyone, welcome to my channel if you're new, or welcome back if you're not. So for today's video I have a review of a very exciting palette. I have the Lunar Beauty Life's Drag palette. It's in its unit carton here at the moment. So this is a palette that I was very excited to have based off of what I had seen online. And I've used it a few times now. I've used it to create 4 different eye looks. So I've got a good feel for the performance of it. So we'll be talking about the packaging, the performance, swatches, and also because I bought it myself and I had it shipped to Ireland, I can talk about pricing and stuff and how it compares with pricing of other palettes. So if you'd like to hear my review on the Life's Drag palette by Lunar Beauty, then just keep watching. So I bought this the minute it launched. I was actually at a match, at a hurling match when it launched, and it was coming out the exact same time as throw-in was for the match. So at 7 p.m. on the dot, the game started and it was very exciting, and I also had my phone out and I started trying to order straight away. So I didn't want to miss out on anything. I didn't know how much they had in stock and stuff. And then for some reason it wouldn't take my payment, and I had like a little bit of trouble with that, so I was like going crazy trying to get this ordered so I could continue watching the match, and also so that I could have it ordered and have it sorted. But eventually I got it and I had it shipped here. So I ordered it on the 2nd and it arrived here in Ireland on the 11th, so it took 9 days. So when it did come, it came in a little black box like this and had Lunar Beauty on the inside and the little card with the promo picture, and then it was all bubble wrapped and stuff up inside here. So then once I took it out, the first thing I was struck with was how glam the unit carton was itself. It wasn't just like a pink cardboard. The text on it is raised and it's in gold glitter. So I like that he put the design into the unit carton as well as the actual packaging of it, which I really like and makes it look so pretty, but also kind of makes me sad because I'm not going to keep this. And I don't know many people that keep their unit cartons. They generally just get tossed away because inside is where the goods are. So I'm sure you've seen the actual packaging already. It has Manny's eyes, which are done up by Lipstick Nick, and it has this holographic finish on the front, and on the back it has that same kind of holographic finish, but it's over white, so I'm not sure if you can see it as well with the lights. And the text is raised and it's like a foiled light pink, and then along the edge it's all gold glitter. So on the inside, again, I'm sure you've seen this, but there's a nice sized mirror that says "Be a Queen" and these gold embellishments around, and the actual palette bit here is all gold glitter, and these are the colours. Oh, and I'm missing my brush because I used it. So there is actually a brush that comes with it as well. It's a little double-ended brush, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So just sticking with the packaging for a minute, I will just point out that even though it is like a long palette, it's not like one of those kind of long slimline palettes. It is thicker in the end of it. So it's actually just as thick as an Anastasia palette, even though these are smaller. They are about the same width, but obviously the Life's Drag is much bigger in size as well. So it's a hefty old size, but you do get 14 good sized pans, and again we'll talk about that in a minute. But just the last thing that I did want to note about the packaging is that it folds over all the way, which I love. Now, if you are someone who likes to use the mirror not just as holding it or as propping it up against something, if you like it to kind of stand on its own and to be able to use it on a table, you won't like that fact because it flops back. However, for me, mirrors that are on a palette don't work because they're too low on the table anyway. So if I'm going to use them, I'm going to be holding it. But also, I've talked about this in other videos, I'm sure. But I like a palette that flops back like that, because it doesn't take up much space then while I'm using it on my makeup table. And that's particularly good for me as a working makeup artist. When I'm laying out my products here, when I'm working, say, from the studio, the less space a product takes up, the better. It's just nice and neat, and I can fit more palettes out. Or especially when I'm doing a call out and I mightn't have much room to work with, if it can fold up and be neat, it's good to use in that way as well. So I love the fact that it folds over, and it folds over quite easily. The Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette, I remember saying that about it as well, that I liked that I could fold it over, but it was a bit stiffer and I had to kind of wear it in a little bit so that it would kind of stay flat when it was folded over, whereas this actually flops over and it like sits at a nice little angle for you as well. So all in all, I really love the packaging. I love everything that went into it, the colours, the design. I'm really happy with that. And then in terms of the shadows and the colours, I was really excited to get this when I saw it, because I found that as a colour story it was really inspiring, because it has those pops of colour in there. It makes it very diverse, and you can start looking at the different colours or the different looks you could create, but at the same time it's still really cohesive because it has all those nice neutrals. And even though I could mix it with other products and other palettes, I wouldn't necessarily need to, because it has a matte black, it has transition colours, it has bright colours, neutrals. It works really well on its own, and you can also create a multitude of looks just from this. I also really liked the names of the shadows that he chose. They're all within the theme of drag, and I thought they were really cute. I do just want to talk about the brush for a second. So it's a double-ended blending and packing brush. One side is flat and one side is more fluffy. They are both synthetic. I think the flat side is fine. It's just a stiff flat packing brush. But the fluffy side, and this just could be me and my brush preferences, I don't like this blending side. I feel like it's cut super square. There's not much roundness to the top. It's like very up and then flat across. It is a pinched ferrule type of blending brush, so they do tend to be a little bit squarer in shape, but it's also very stiff, so it doesn't kind of splay out and give you enough fluffiness. I feel like it is just quite blunt and quite stiff, and there's not enough give to it, and it is quite like synthetic feeling. And I think it was actually the brush that came with the Modern Renaissance palette that I actually found that blending brush decent. It wasn't a pinch ferrule, it was rounded, so it was fluffier, but it did have more give in it, and I actually like to use it as a blending brush. I keep it generally with my travel brushes because it's nice and small, but like that's a brush that came with the palette that I actually think is decent and I use. So when I saw that he was including a brush in his palette, just because it was coming from him, I kind of expected that this was going to be actually like a decent brush. We all know that the brushes that come with palettes are generally kind of meh. You kind of put them to the side, you might use them if you're stuck. But I don't know, just because it was him that was coming out with a palette and he's been on that other side of it, I thought that the brush that came with his palette might be like, okay, this is actually one that I like, it's actually one that I would use. And I think just because I expected that, I'm a little bit more let down by the brush than I would normally be. I did, as you can see, use it. As I said, the flat side is fine. It's actually a little bit small to what I would like. I'd like a little bit more length in it. And again, I just don't like the cut and the stiffness of the blending side, but I did use it for buffing out underneath my eye on one look. And that worked well enough because it's pinched, it was not too like fluffy and big, and because it's stiff, it like stayed in that precise area. But as a crease brush, I just wouldn't use it for that. So onto swatches. I'll insert a picture of all the shades swatched on my arm, and there will be more pictures and everything on my blog, and that will be linked down below in the top line as always. So straight off the bat, I was impressed by Pageant Queen, which is the purple, Kai Kai, which is the pink, Shady, which is the black, and then the browns, Sickening, Hunty and Mug. They swatched really well, and also the three of those specifically felt really silky when I was touching them. All of the shades have really good pigment, but those specifically were just ones that, like, when I swatched them I was like, oh wow, I was impressed, you know, specifically. The two shades that when I swatched them I was kind of like, oh, that's alright, were Kiki, which is the mint green, which he did talk about in his reveal video, and he said it doesn't swatch well. It is more of like a transition shade, and I can attest to that. When I used it on my eye, I kind of forgot that this was kind of a disappointing swatch. When I was using it in a look, it came out perfectly, but again, I was using it as a transition for this blue. And the other one that didn't look great swatching was Campy, which is the yellow, but on the eye it was actually one of the best yellows that I've used. So those two for me didn't swatch very well, but they performed very well. So I've used both the white and the black. I've actually used all of the colours now, but the white and the black both performed very well. But I know when I'm looking at a white and black in a palette, those are kind of ones that I'm interested to how they swatch and how they apply. So I thought I would just compare them to like a white and a black that I generally use outside of this. So I'll take Cake Face and I'll just do a 1, 2, 3 swirl, and I'm going to take the white from my Inglot 40 palette. I'll insert the number because I can't think of it offhand, and again I'll do a 1, 2, 3. So this is the Lunar Beauty and this is the Inglot. So that's what they look like. I actually think that was a poor swatch by me. I'll do the same again. I've taken the same amount again on each finger. So this is the Lunar Beauty and this is the Inglot. So it's not like the most pigmented white, the most creamy white, but again, when I was using it on the eye, I wasn't disappointed by it. You could see the white, it blended well, it wasn't chalky at all. And then the black, well, I'm going to compare it with the black from the Kat Von D Shade and Light palette because I find that a really good black. Now in his reveal video, he did note about his black that he doesn't like his blacks to be too pigmented. So it was kind of a disclaimer for if you do find that it's not the blackest black. So again, I'm taking kind of the same amount on each finger. This is the Lunar Beauty and this is the Kat Von D. And I actually think the Lunar Beauty swatched better than the Kat Von D. I think it came out blacker. So that's impressive, especially for when he said he didn't like him too black, but it looks good to me. So as I said, I've had time to play around with this. The first time I went in and I did like a dramatic winged out eye, and I also used some of the shadows on my cheek and lips. I used Hunty as a contour and I used Kai Kai as a blush, and then I used a little bit of Beat as a bit of shimmer over a nude lip, and I used a mixture of Legendary and Beat as a highlight. And even though they were a little bit glittery on the cheek, once I kind of really buffed it in, it was nice. I did a very natural look with some of the nudes. I did like a blue and purple eye look using some of the brights. And then I did this look today just using all mattes and more of the nudes again. And they were all really easy to work with. They blended perfectly. The pigmentation is great. I think the only one for me that it wasn't tricky to work with, but it was just, I noted that when I was using Legendary, because this is so softly pressed, it does mean that it's really creamy and really pigmented. But if I found that the brush I was applying with it was a little bit too fluffy and wasn't stiff enough, especially if I was kind of just applying it over the lid, I would get a little bit of like a shimmer in my eye, which isn't like a bad thing about the product. It's not like, oh my god, it's really dangerous for your eyes. It's just something to note because it is a shimmer and it's really softly pressed. It works best when applied with a stiff brush, and it would probably work best applied wet. I actually didn't get to do that, but if I wanted it really like metallic, I'd go in and apply it wet, and that would also avoid any fallout like that. Another thing that Manny did say in his video is that I think some of the red or pink shades can stain your eye, and he said that he hadn't found that at all, but he just had to say that there is a possibility that the pigment could stain your lids. And I actually did find that with Kai Kai, the bright pink. Beautiful colour, beautifully pigmented. I use it in a look. Oh, and I did a fifth look. I did a pink and gold kind of crazy look in my brow and everything. And when I removed that, so I took a wipe, the same wipe that I would use anytime I'm removing my makeup, and I removed it and was left with like a pinky stain through my crease and in the front of my brow. And I was doing another look on top of that, and I took my MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot and went over it, and I could just still see it peeking through, and I was a little bit worried, but it was fine. I was doing more eyeshadow on top of it, so you couldn't see it at all. So I didn't take a picture when I immediately took off the eye makeup because I figured that rubbing my eye with the wipe kind of contributed to it, and I was just a little bit red. But when I went over with my MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot and I could still see the pink peeking through, that's when I took a picture. So that's the one that you're looking at right now. And the eye on the left is the one with the bit of pink staining. So you can see it around my crease, a little bit under my eye, and also through my brow. So that's just to show the bit of staining that it left, and that's coming through some of my MAC paint pot. And then at the end of the night, I removed all my makeup with like a balm and a cleanser, and it all totally came off, and I completely forgot about the pink that was there beforehand. But this morning I did have a good look and I couldn't see any trace of it. So it was just that initial, when I removed the makeup, I was left with a pink stain, but with the second time I removed it, it all came off. So for me, I did experience that staining, but it wasn't a huge deal either. So now let's talk about kind of the price per gram and how it breaks down price wise. He actually has good size pans in here. They're 1.5 grams per eyeshadow. And I think in his video, he said they're the same as MAC shadows, but I could be wrong. But from what I could see online, MAC are actually a little bit smaller at 1.3 grams, which is the same as the Urban Decay Naked sizes. So I think these are actually a tiny little bit bigger. And in terms of comparison with other palettes and their prices, it breaks down at $2.14 per gram. And in comparison to other shadows, say the Kat Von D Shade and Light, this breaks down at $2.83 per gram. The Urban Decay Naked palettes break down at $3.46 per gram. And then the Anastasia palettes break down at $4.23 per gram. So of the four of those palettes, this breaks down at the cheapest per gram. So in that sense, I think it's a very, very good price for these 14 good size pans, and really good packaging as well. It's not like basic packaging, but good product. It's good product and good packaging. Now, I just want to mention about shipping, because if you're watching from, say, my side of the pond, if you're in Ireland or in the UK, for me in Ireland, shipping was $20. So straight away, that was then $65 I paid online to have it sent over. And then when it got delivered, I got caught for customs, and they were an extra €23. So it all worked out at about €81, which means that it basically doubled in price for me to actually get it in my hand. Now, in his reveal video, he did mention that they will be having 2 retailers, and one of those will be in the UK. I don't think he mentioned which, but he said that one would be kind of launching 2 weeks after the initial launch, and the other one would take about a month. So my advice, if you're again on this side of the pond, would be to wait for that UK retailer to cut down on that shipping cost. Because for me, that was a kind of a con and a bit disappointing, because his audience is, you know, global, and he's kind of announcing it and promoting it on social media and on YouTube. It's to an international audience. I would have liked if they could have done something better with the shipping, because I kind of looked back on my purchases from America, and I placed an order, say, with Ofra, and I think it was a good amount. I think it was actually the Nikki Tutorials set and a highlighter and another liquid lipstick. and the shipping for that was an extra $12 as opposed to an extra $20 for the palette. So I would love to see them improve on that, but also again, I would wait for that UK retailer. So as a general roundup, I am giving this a thumbs up. I really like the packaging, I really like the colours, I really like the formula. The brush is a downer and the shipping is a downer, but outside of that, this is a good palette and a good product. So 2 thumbs up from me. That brings us to the end of the review. Again, there'll be more pictures and swatches and stuff down in my blog in the description box, so you can check that out if you'd like to. Thank you so much for stopping by, I really appreciate it. Definitely give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and also subscribe if you'd like to see more from me. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much guys, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!